Let's talk about a little bit about the masculine and feminine principles at play in regards to all creation and manifestation. All right. So from the ancient Kemet, one of their most famous symbols is the Ankh. And the Ankh, and I've talked about it before, the Ankh is the vagina coming into union with the penis. Okay. At the physical level of creation, you are two gods coming together to create another god. And I've said this many times before, that we are all walking gods. I'm a god, you're a god, your mama's a god. All right. And at the physical level of creation, the masculine and feminine have materialized to come together to create another physical being. You see? You have to understand that at the divine masculine and feminine, these are principles that don't necessarily have a gender until they slow down and manifest as man and woman. Okay, but at the higher level, the masculine and feminine principle, the masculine is the active force in creation. The feminine force is the receiving passive force of creation. Okay, and when we're born from the divine masculine and feminine, we are born as man and woman. And I know 2020, 2021, that line's a little grayed out nowadays, but for the sake of this and for the sake of my own personal beliefs, you are born a man and you are born woman. You are born with a penis, you are born with a vagina. And this is very important at the physical level of creation, because the penis, when it is erect, is literally the active force, and the vagina is the receiving force. You see how this works? And once those come together into union, and you impregnate the woman, a child is formed. That is at the physical level. Okay? And then let's move on up a little bit when we're going to the physical, or the mental, sorry. What's going on at the mental level? So at the mental level, we have what's going on. It's called one of the phrases that I've been starting to use is misdesire, meet willpower, as if you were introducing the masculine and feminine principles together. So at the mental, you're sitting there one day and you have just the idea, like you're like, let's I want to start a business. I want to start a business. So, that's that internal desire. It can start with the woman's creation, or the feminine creation first. And then willpower gets you to start to act on these internal feelings, but you create it in yourself first. And then when you can see it, it slows down in the physical to the point that you can actually hold it. But let's talk a little bit more about the physical before we jump back up to the spiritual. The masculine and feminine principles are always at play when it comes to all forms of manifestation at all levels. So when I literally clap my hands, the act of me slamming my hands together is the masculine active force. The sound that is created, the tingle in my hands if I clap really hard, is the feminine principle, the passive, and almost like the result. What happens after the masculine part does something? And then, of course, it's this full circle. So then sometimes it starts with the feminine, like I just talked about with your desire, or it can talk about the masculine at the physical level where you clap and something happens. You see what I'm saying? And then let's give you another example about everyday usage of the masculine and feminine principle that the Kemet understood is your lungs, right? So when you breathe in and your lungs expand and your lungs contract when you breathe out, the act of your lungs expanding and contracting is the masculine principle. The air entering and exiting your lungs is the feminine principle. You see how it works? And it's like what's going on in our society right now is we don't understand this type of stuff, especially when it comes to being born in divine masculine, divine feminine. We are out of balance right now. This is why we have yin and yang. Even modern science touches on this a little bit, where they say for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, just like there's hot and cold, up and down, there's masculine and feminine, and each one of them plays a role. But right now, we just want to be the most important, and we're just playing tug of war with power right now when that's just not necessary. If more men understood their divine masculine, if more women understood their divine feminine, we'd be solid. But then comes a part where you have to understand the opposite. That's why yin and yang is the light and the dark and the light. You as a man, you need to also understand your feminine, and then the woman, you need to understand your masculine. If everyone started doing that, everything would just fall back into place and the dust would settle. But back to our manifestation. So at the spiritual level, what's going on? How do the masculine and feminine principles affect this part? Well, when you plant the seed, when you set your intention to something at the spiritual level, it's done at a spiritual level. When you plant that seed, when you paint that picture, that is the masculine active force. You are saying, This is what I want to happen at my physical level. This is all happening automatically at the spiritual level. And then the feminine is kind of like, okay, I've taken that idea and I'm going to harness it. I'm kind of like a baby in the womb. So I'm going to harness this and either, I'm going to just let it be and just let it naturally occur, or depending on your manifestation technique, you keep sending it positive energy to bring it into fruition, whatever one is most natural to you. Okay, so let's give an example of a top-down, pretty much everything masculine and feminine of what's going on at the the masculine and feminine in regards to manifestation from soul world, fourth, fifth dimension to your physical 3D dimension. Okay, so let's just say, for example, I want to own a business. The spiritual level, I plant the seed. My masculine level, at the masculine level, I'm planting the seed. I'm painting the picture of what my company looks like, what my office looks like, what my office building looks like, how many people do I have working there. I paint this picture. I pack all this information into a seed, if you will, and plant it. Okay? And what happens is you get put on what's called the bridge of incident. This is what, life pretty much conforming to get you whatever it is that you created at that level. Okay? And it can happen in just a whole bunch of life events, things that you happen to be in a certain place at the right time. You read the right book, the right video, whatever it is, right? So all this is happening at the spiritual level. All these things are starting to be put in place. At the spiritual level, that idea is being fed positive energy to manifest, if you will. At the mental level, you sat here, you're like, okay, cool. But let's just say you didn't consciously do the first step, and you just have this idea. You're like, I want to start a business. Your higher self told you I want to start a business, but you don't talk to it like that. It comes through intuition. It comes through feeling. So you sit there and you say, I want to start a business. Okay, that's the desire in you, the internal, before you start to act on it. The internal, that's the feminine that happens first, and then it turns into the masculine, where it's your willpower to go out there and start doing what you need to do to start that business. And then at the physical level is the slowest part, where you can now touch it, you can now observe it. And the physical part is with you, getting the keys, opening the door to your office. You know what I'm saying? And then you just walk in and you are accepting of this energy. You did all this type of stuff, and at the end of the day, it starts to circle where it's all mind, body, and spirit connection. Because at the end, you have to accept it. Because you could easily done all this mental work, all this learning to start your company, did the LLCs, all this type of stuff, and then you can get there and be like, I don't want this. So the last part of it is another part of the feminine, which brings it right back up to the spiritual, was you accepting it. Being the receiving of all of the masculine energy that you went out and did, and now you have to receive it. You see what I'm saying? And then once you receive it, that's another spiritual act, and now you just recycle. This is why they say you have to become it. That's why they say you have to make it a habit to be in the right mindset, the right frequency. You need all these things, because it's a never-ending cycle. That's why it's hard for people to get out of bad habits, because they've been in that cycle, and their mind, body, and spirit have all been creating this negative thing over and over. That's why you have to kind of slow down that wheel and start to bring it back the other way. Once again, I have a video about duality, about how everything is all the same. Poor and rich are the same. It's just a lesser degree. The more poor, or the less rich you are, the more poor you are. The less poor you are, the more rich you are. So you need to understand that. However, think of it like this, right? I'm on one right now. I'm buzzing. So think about it like this. As you draw the dial on your thermometer, when you're trying to make it hotter, electrons are heating up, they're moving faster, and that's when you feel heat. So to go from rich to poor, poor to rich, all you're doing is dragging the dial from one end to the other. And that's the level of momentum that you're given to a certain space, if you will, in a certain paradigm. So in the paradigm of wealth, if you're dragging it more this way, you're speeding up more towards wealth. And then you can look at this two ways. You're either slowing down your wealth, or you're speeding up to poor when you go the other way. So once again, you just need to understand that masculine and feminine is necessary at all levels of creation. And what you're doing is you're utilizing both in balance to create the life that you want. We are the divine masculine, we are the divine feminine. And when you start to put all these things together and you start to see how it's affecting you in your outside life, your internal life, your mental, your spiritual, your life starts to change. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this made some sense. It took me a few tries to make this video because, like, I wasn't feeling it, but I got one. I got on one at the end there. So thank you guys for listening. If you need me to clarify anything, let me know. To the next one. Take care.